WHOW mobile app. Plus, hear a best of Clinton sports broadcast Saturday mornings at 10. All brought to you by Love It Once More Thrift Store. Keith Wade, your country financial representative, and our exclusive sponsor for our Player of the Game, Serve Pro of Hyatt DeWitt Counties, the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction.
7 minutes after 8 o'clock on this Monday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast streaming to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. It wasn't by much, but the 54th edition of the Apple and Pork Festival was another record setter. Just by about 300 or 400 people, the 2022 festival drew again over 103,000 people to Clinton. Chief Ben Lauer says everyone felt like the Saturday crowd was fantastic and the Sunday crowd started late, but they came out in force as the afternoon went on.
So yesterday, our number was 62,448 was the number for yesterday. A typical Sunday running about 2/3 or so of Saturday's attendance. We're right back on track for what it generally is. Today's number was 41,040 in attendance at the Apple and Pork Festival today, bringing our grand total for the 2 days of 103,488. I've heard all kinds of accolades this year. You know, yesterday seemed like even more than that. You know, it was, wow, was that a crowd yesterday? You know, Sunday, the crowd doesn't start quite as early, and it never quite gets quite as full as what it will on Saturday. But we had another great crowd today and great turnout for this year. And as I said, you know, the one factor that we can't control is Mother Nature, and she was awful kind to us this year.
Tours of the DeWitt County Museum and C.H. Moore Homestead returned in 2022 after a challenge finding enough volunteers in 21, in addition to work on the porches going on. Director of the museum, Joey Long, indicates a trend that was beginning before COVID was younger people interested in the home, and that continued as tours resumed this fall.
Inside the house, bustling again. My goodness, it was busy. So when we opened this morning talking, we talked about how we had very large numbers of people go through, more than expected. Guess what? We did it again today. And the same carried through today. So again, asking questions, you know, what piqued your curiosity? You know, why'd you decide to come in? And it just seems that, you know, the younger folks just seem to, in the last year or so, have a much greater appreciation of history, or maybe say more curiosity about it. I think maybe, you know, a lot of people I talked to said that they'd been coming to the festival for years, but hadn't taken the opportunity to explore the inside of the house. And, you know, maybe we're just doing a better job of getting the message out to people that the house is what it's all about.
The Apple and Pork Festival, at its core, is a fundraiser for the C.H. Moore Homestead and DeWitt County Museum. Long indicates 54 years ago, the mansion was in less than desirable condition and has greatly been improved over the years.
Well, I think it would be safe to say that it's improved quite a bit. You know, there used to not be a bypass around Clinton. 51 went right through town. This house has stood for, 100 years. People knew this house as a landmark. You know, the house that was maybe in not such good shape, but the big old house at the north edge of town. When the Museum Association first took occupancy and responsibility for the house, it was in terrible, terrible condition, but they opened it right away, realizing that people might be curious. And years down the line, they might appreciate if they saw how horrible of condition it was in before they did the restoration, that they would appreciate that. And still, Seth, now and then during festival weekend, we'll get somebody that comes in the house and tours, and they'll say, hey, I remember back about 50 years ago when they first opened the doors and allowed people to walk through, this disaster of a house just to satisfy our curiosity. So yes, we have certainly come a long way. Well, we do have some projects that we just finished up. For example, we just repaired and painted the little spring house that people pass by on the stairs. And then as far as future projects, We're needing to replace the carpet in the main entryway and the staircase. That's a major thing. You don't go to the hardware store or the carpet store to buy that carpet. In fact, we actually got really lucky. The carpet that's in there now is the carpet that was laid in the 1960s when they were first restoring the house. We were actually able to find that same manufacturer is still in business. And because in the 60s when they made our carpet, the man who owned the company liked the pattern so well that he actually saved the pattern and had that carpet in his own house and kept all of the color match yarn. The carpet that we're getting put in is the same carpet that was put in 50 years ago, made by the same company.
A very family-like atmosphere is how Chief Flowers describes the Apple and Pork Festival and believes it is the traditional nature of the crafts, the flea market, and the food that brings people out that are traditionally not going to cause problems.
I hand that back to the people that came before me in coordinating this event, not only for the homestead and the museum, but also from the city. You know, the Tim Followells, the Mike Reedies, who spent years kind of fine-tuning this system. I've seen very little changes to the itinerary over the last 10 years, you know. So again, it's just plenty of experience that those guys have had and worked through those. You know, they in terms of Chief Reedy, he really handed me a well-run event. Right, and so, exactly. Yeah. You know, and obviously I came from within the department, so had the experience in working with him on that. And I can't say enough good about the way that he left this for me to take over his role. So, you know, that, but the other thing is, and I have this conversation with people all the time, you know, this is a craft and food event. You know, this is a craft and food festival. You know, I think the dynamic would change immensely if we were talking about a battle of the bands and multiple beer tents, you know. So we don't have that factor. This is a lot of folks here shopping for those crafts, the flea markets, eating the good food, you know, enjoying a very family-like atmosphere. So that's a huge factor for us.
Keep it to regional radio and DeWittDailyNews.com over the next several weeks as we highlight the conversations from the 54th Annual Apple and Pork Festival from WHOW's live coverage of the weekend. This past Friday night was not just homecoming night at Monticello High School, but it was also the Hall of Fame night. Former cross-country state champion Steve Schrader was inducted into the Monticello High School Hall of Fame. His coach, Dave Remmert, calls Schrader the most talented runner he's coached.
Well, you know, I've been coaching for 10 years now, but when I started out, Steve had just won state the year prior to my start coaching, but he and I grew very close, and you know, we're really excited to have him back to enter into the Hall of Fame. And you know, it's really good to see him back in town. And you know, I remember being at all the meets that he did really well at, and during cross country his sophomore year, his junior year, and then finally his senior year. And you know, there's a back portion of the course that we used to call the triangle, and he came out of that back portion with a little bit of a lead on his closest competitor, and you know, gave it everything he had the last mile coming around the turn. And you know, all of us Monticelloans were just so excited to welcome him into the finish chute at the Peoria Detweiler course.
Sure.
I'm really happy to introduce Steve today for your listening audience. And, you know, he's definitely the stalwart of our cross-country program here. He's the only state champion that we've ever had. And, you know, we welcome him back with open arms.
Schrader explains his transition to collegiate cross-country at the Naval Academy was quite challenging because not only was he running cross-country year-round, but you're also a part of the military as a college student.
It was challenging. It was good for me in the long run, though, because I craved that challenge, and it provided me an outlet to really find out what my limits are, because we had obligations in pretty much every area you could think of, academically, physically, athletically, and militarily. So we had to learn how to be in the military the whole time.
Right,
and learning through a series of trials and tribulations to earn your keep, essentially.
Sure.
You need to meet a lot of standards week in and week out, and constant evaluations on how you're doing. And then on top of that, a rigorous course load of collegiate courses. I had to take engineering courses, even though I wasn't an engineering major.
Wow.
It was just general education classes that every single midshipman at the academy had to take. The running achievements came on pretty slowly at first. So freshman year was spent just getting my feet under me, no pun intended, and learning how to race at a higher level and how to compete against really older guys.
Schrader is currently stationed in Hawaii at Camp H.M. Smith. Coverage of news streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Get the latest in local news anytime from your computer or mobile device at